I used to think the worst meeting of my career would be the one where I got fired. I was wrong. The worst part happened before anyone said a single word. It started the afternoon before. I was wrapping up a deployment. My manager stopped by my desk. He leaned against the cubicle wall with a smile I hadn't seen in months. "We need someone reliable to lead the next phase." Then he looked straight at me. "I think you're ready." That sentence followed me home. For 5 years, I'd worked late nights, answered emergency calls on weekends, fixed problems that technically weren't mine, and stayed loyal even when recruiters kept offering me higher salaries. I never expected anyone to notice. But for the first time, it felt like someone finally had. I told my wife that evening I thought something good was about to happen. Not because I was guessing, because my manager had practically said it out loud. She smiled and said, "I told you all those late nights would pay off." I wanted to believe I was guessing, because my manager had practically said it out loud. She smiled and said, "I told you all those late nights would pay off." I wanted to believe she was right. The next morning, I got to work earlier than usual. I even bought coffee for the team. It sounds ridiculous now, but when you think your career is about to change, every little thing feels different. At 9:12, a meeting invitation appeared on my calendar. Executive Sync HR plus IT, 10 a.m. I smiled. Companies give meetings strange names all the time. Leadership planning, internal restructuring, promotion discussions, nothing about it seemed unusual until I noticed something small. My manager wasn't invited. I stared at the screen for a few seconds. That didn't make much sense. He was the one who'd hinted at the promotion. Why wouldn't he be there? I almost walked over to ask him. Instead, I convinced myself there had to be a perfectly reasonable explanation. Maybe HR wanted to discuss salary first. Maybe leadership planned to surprise me. Maybe. I simply wanted to believe everything was going exactly the way I'd imagined. At 9:58, I walked toward the conference room. I remember fixing my shirt in the reflection of a window before opening the door. I wasn't nervous. I was excited. Then I stepped inside. HR was already sitting at the table. IT was there too. Neither of them smiled. Before I could say anything, my eyes landed on something that immediately felt wrong. My laptop. Already sitting in the middle of the table, powered on, logged out, waiting. My stomach tightened. No one had asked me to bring it, which meant someone had already taken it from my desk. Before I'd even arrived, HR motioned toward the empty chair. "Thanks for coming. Please, have a seat." I sat down, still trying to find another explanation. Maybe there'd been a security issue, maybe my device had failed, maybe anything except what the silence in that room was already telling me. HR folded her hands on the table, took one slow breath, then she said 6 words that erased the future I'd imagined less than 24 hours earlier. "Today will be your last day here." For a second, my brain refused to process the sentence. I actually laughed. "Sorry, what?" No one laughed with me. IT kept staring at the table. HR didn't repeat herself. She didn't need to. Because at that exact moment, I realized something that hit even harder than being fired. The decision had already been made. My laptop was already logged out. My system access was already gone. This wasn't a meeting to discuss my future. It was a meeting to inform me that I no longer had one. The next 90 seconds felt unreal. HR started talking about organizational alignment. IT avoided eye contact completely. My access was already disabled. Before the conversation even started, that detail hit harder than the firing itself, because it meant one thing. This decision wasn't made now. It was already executed. I was just the final notification. I asked one question: is my manager aware of this? A pause, a very long pause. Then, he's aligned with the decision. That word, aligned. Not involved. Not responsible, just aligned. That's when I understood something I didn't want to understand. This wasn't about performance. This was about cost. They gave me 15 minutes to pack. Not an hour. Not the day. 15 minutes. When I walked back to my desk, I noticed something strange. No one asked me anything, but people weren't normal either. Some avoided eye contact. Some suddenly became extremely busy. One guy stood up like he wanted to say something, but sat back down. That silence was louder than the meeting because it wasn't confusion, it was awareness. They already knew this system existed. They just hoped it wouldn't touch them today. I packed my things slowly, too slowly. A mug, a notebook, a badge. That's it. That's what 5 years becomes. When I stepped outside, the sunlight felt aggressive, too normal, too indifferent. The world didn't pause for me, not even a second. At home, I didn't even need to explain. My wife saw the box, then she saw my face. That was enough. No questions, just silence. And in that silence, the first real thought hit me. We are one paycheck away from instability. The first week was the strangest. Not sadness, not anger, disorientation. I kept waking up thinking I had meetings, then remembering I didn't exist in that calendar anymore. Every day I checked email like something would reverse it. It never did. Instead, something else started happening. People disappeared. Slowly. Naturally. Like I had been moved outside their attention radius. Then came the first message. One colleague, "Sorry man, hope you're okay." That was it. No follow-up, no call, just emotional punctuation, a full stop disguised as kindness. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. People don't abandon you intentionally. They just avoid inconvenience. In week 3, I got a call. Unknown number. It was someone from my old team. His voice was lower than usual. "You didn't hear this from me, but everything started breaking after you left." I stayed quiet. "They split your role into 3 people. None of them fully understand the system." Then he added something I didn't expect. "We didn't realize how much you were actually holding together." That sentence should have felt like validation, but it didn't. It felt like late recognition for something already gone. A few days later, I heard another detail. The replacement wasn't random. It was planned. Before I was even removed, they had already divided my role into smaller positions, not because it was better, but because it was cheaper. I wasn't replaced. I was diluted. Something in me changed after that. Not bitterness, clarity. I stopped applying everywhere randomly, started rebuilding from scratch, studied everything I used to ignore: system design, architecture, scalability. 2 months later, I got an interview. Small company, no corporate tone, no scripts, just real questions. "What did you learn from your last job?" I paused, then answered honestly. "I learned that being essential and being valued are not the same thing." He nodded immediately. No hesitation. I got the offer 3 days later. Not the highest salary, but something better. Respect, boundaries, stability. Months later, I heard something unexpected. An email thread from my old company, a major system failure, the same system I used to maintain. And then I saw a line that stopped me cold. "We may need to consult the original engineer." Original engineer. Me. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. It was my former manager, but his voice wasn't the same anymore. No confidence, no control, just urgency. "We might need your help. Things are getting worse than expected." I stayed silent. The replacements couldn't stabilize the system. We didn't realize how much dependency was built on your part of the architecture. Then he said it. "If you're open to it, we can discuss bringing you back." That was the moment everything shifted. Not for them, for me. I finally understood the difference between being needed and being valued. "I understand the situation," I said. Pause. "But I've already moved on." Silence. A long one. The kind that doesn't need explanation. A week later, I found out the truth. They had spent more money replacing me than keeping me. But the real cost wasn't money. It was stability. Deadlines slipped, clients left, the system I built became the thing they couldn't escape. And here's the part that stayed with me. I wasn't replaced. I was temporarily removed from something that still depended on me. But I didn't go back, because by then I had already built a life where I didn't disappear just because someone else decided I should. But his voice wasn't the same anymore. No confidence, no control, just urgency. "We might need your help. Things are getting worse than expected." I stayed silent. The replacements couldn't stabilize the system. We didn't realize how much dependency was built on your part of the architecture. Then he said it. "If you're open to it, we can discuss bringing you back." That was the moment everything shifted. Not for them, for me. I finally understood the difference between being needed and being valued. "I understand the situation," I said. Pause. "But I've already moved on." Silence. A long one. The kind that doesn't need explanation. A week later, I found out the truth. They had spent more money replacing me than keeping me. But the real cost wasn't money. It was stability. Deadlines slipped, clients left, the system I built became the thing they couldn't escape. And here's the part that stayed with me. I wasn't replaced. I was temporarily removed from something that still depended on me. But I didn't go back, because by then I had already built a life where I didn't disappear just because someone else decided I should. Barely removed from something that still depended on me, but I didn't go back because by then I had already built a life where I didn't disappear just because someone else decided I should.